What if I told you that in the dry deserts of East Africa, whole villages were burned down until nothing was left but ashes, that the ground turned red with blood, and that mothers cried through the night for sons who never came home? What if I told you that brothers, Eritreans and Ethiopians, who once fought together for freedom, later turned their guns on each other and destroyed everything they had built together? This is the painful story of the Eritrean-Ethiopian War, a war that began in 1998 and ended in 2000. It started over a small piece of land, but ended up taking thousands of lives, breaking hearts and leaving deep scars that still remain today. Before we go deeper, please subscribe to this channel, like this video and share it, because what you are about to hear is more than just history. It's a lesson about pride, anger, and the high cost of war. It all began quietly on May 6, 1998. Eritrean soldiers moved into a small town called Badme, located on the border between Eritrea and Ethiopia. To outsiders, Badme looked worthless, just a dusty stretch of dry land with rocks, thorny bushes, and a few scattered huts. But to both countries, Badme was a matter of pride. Eritrea had only become an independent country in 1993 after fighting a long 30-year war for freedom from Ethiopia. Both countries once stood as one. Many Eritrean and Ethiopian soldiers fought together against the same enemy for liberation. But after Eritrea gained independence, a new problem began. Where exactly the border between the two nations should be. Both sides claimed Badme as their own. On that hot day in May, Eritrean troops entered Badme, claiming it was part of their land. Ethiopian forces responded immediately. At first, it was just small gunfire between border guards, but very quickly, the fighting grew bigger. By May 12, it had turned into full-blown war. The sound of gunshots filled the air, tanks rolled through villages. People ran for their lives, leaving behind everything they owned. The towns of Badme, Surona, Zalambesa, and Gure turned into burning battlefields. Dust, smoke, and fire covered the sky. What was supposed to be a local argument had now turned into a nightmare. In June 1998, the fighting spread even further. It was no longer just soldiers fighting each other. Civilians, innocent men, women, and children became victims too. Ethiopian fighter jets flew over Asmara, the capital of Eritrea, dropping bombs on the airport. A few days later, Eritrea struck back, sending their own fighter planes to attack Mekele, a city in northern Ethiopia. But something terrible happened. On June 5th, 1998, an Eritrean jet accidentally dropped bombs on a school in Mekele. The explosion destroyed the building. Dozens of school children were killed instantly. Their notebooks and pencils were mixed with dust and blood. Parents ran to the scene, screaming, hoping to find their children alive, but most found only silence. That day, the world saw how cruel war could be. It was no longer about soldiers and borders. It was about lives lost for nothing. The border soon turned into a place of death. Soldiers from both sides dug long trenches, turning the desert into a living graveyard. They lived underground for months, hiding from enemy fire. The heat was unbearable during the day and freezing cold at night. They barely had enough food or clean water. Some drank from muddy water just to stay alive. The sound of bombs and gunfire never stopped. The sky glowed red every night from explosions. Dead bodies lay everywhere, some buried, others left where they fell. Vultures circled in the sky waiting to feed. The smell of death filled the air. Many young men who went to war never came back home. Both leaders, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Meles Zenawi and Eritrea's President Isaiah Afwerki, refused to give up. Each believed they were right. Each wanted victory, but it was the people who paid the crowns. In February 1999, Ethiopia launched a massive attack called Operation Sunset. Tens of thousands of Ethiopian soldiers rushed across the desert towards Eritrean positions. The fighting was terrible. Machine guns fired non-stop. Bombs exploded everywhere. The ground shook. By the time the battle ended, about 10,000 Eritrean soldiers were dead. The desert sand turned dark with blood. Families waited for news that never came. Mothers received letters saying their sons had died as heroes, but no one could bring their bodies home. Still, the war continued. In May 2000, Ethiopia launched another major attack called Operation Aida. It was even bigger. More than 350,000 Ethiopian soldiers took part. Tanks, jets, and artillery fired non-stop. The noise could be heard miles away. Villages near the front line, Zalambesa, Sorona, Senafe, Barentu, were completely destroyed. Houses burned. Roads were covered with wreckage. People ran barefoot through the desert, carrying their children. Some died from hunger and thirst before they could reach safety. The United Nations later said that more than 100,000 people were forced to flee their homes in just a few weeks. The war became cruel. Both sides began to restrict civilians. In Ethiopia, Eritrean families were arrested, had their citizenship taken away, and were forced to leave the country. In Eritrea, Ethiopian civilians were also arrested and tortured. Families who had lived together peacefully for years were suddenly enemies. Villages that were accused of helping the other side were destroyed. Old men were killed. Women were raped. Children were crushed under collapsing houses. The war turned neighbor against neighbor and fear filled every home. After 2 years of blood and suffering, both sides were exhausted. The war finally ended on December 12, 2000, when Eritrea and Ethiopia signed the Algiers peace agreement. The deal was made under the supervision of the United Nations and the Organization of African Unity. The fighting stopped, but peace was not immediate. The land was filled with landmines. Soldiers still faced each other along the borders, watching with suspicion. Officially, between 70,000 and 100,000 people died during the war, but many believe the real number was much higher. Families were broken forever. Mothers never saw their sons again. Brothers who once fought side by side now stood on opposite sides of a border that split them apart. Years passed, but the pain remained. The war left behind broken homes, mass graves, and a generation that grew up surrounded by fear. Even after the guns went silent, hatred still lived on, but then, something surprising happened. In July 2018, after almost 20 years of tension, Ethiopia and Eritrea made peace again. Ethiopia's Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, and Eritrea's President, Isaiah Afwerki, met in Asmara. They shook hands and hugged. People filled the streets, cheering and dancing. Families that had been separated for years finally saw each other again. It felt like a new beginning. A fresh start for two nations that had suffered too long. But even with peace, the land still remembers. The soil of Badme, Sorona, and Zalambesa still holds the blood of those who died there. Some families never got closure. Some never found the bodies of their loved ones. The ghosts of that war still walk in silence. So I ask you, how can two nations that once fought together for freedom end up destroying each other? Was the land really worth so many lives? Can borders truly mean more than people? Or will pride and anger always make us repeat the same mistakes? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel so that more people can hear stories like this. Because even though wars may end on paper, the pain never truly goes away. The land remembers, the people remember, and in the hearts of those who survived, the war never really ended. Thanks for watching, and we'd love to have you again on this same channel. Bye for now. We love you.